Let's take a look at what took place on the markets, the market reaction to the news of Amplats. Rhynardt Roodt, equity analyst at Investec Asset Management. Rhynardt, thanks so much for joining us today. So the title of Amplats is a press release today saying they want to create that sustainable, competitive and profitable platinum business. But it seems that everyone has been shocked to a large degree by the announcement. Were you shocked by the announcement today of the closure of some of its shafts?
No, not really. I think it was kind of well anticipated and I think actually very much expected. The magnitude and the quantum of it I think wasn't known. I think kind of the low end of expectations would have been, I suppose, less than 200,000 ounces, with the upper end of expectations being close to 400. I think if you do dig a little bit deeper, one tends to, you will actually find that the 400,000 ounce number that was quoted, I think is a little bit misleading. I mean, our estimates is that the actual number of ounces that will be taken out of the market or that will be shut down on a permanent basis seems to be closer to about 300,000 ounces. Mm-hmm. So, the magnitude I think is actually maybe slightly larger, which I think is a good thing for the industry, and that's obviously why you saw some of the platinum equities rallying quite strongly when the result came out. What is a bit of a surprise is, I suppose, this whole labour situation. The number of jobs that will have to be shared, and clearly this is going to be a very interesting space going forward, because it's one thing to make an announcement of a restructuring and quite another thing to actually implement or to execute it.
Exactly, especially when you've got a government which is very anti any company that wants to restructure, which leads to retrenchments, as is the case here in South Africa. What about the reduction in capex going forward for Anglo-American Platinum, looking at a 25% reduction there to 100 billion rand over the next 10 years? What does that mean for the company? Do you think, of course, this is the right move at a time where there's uncertainty about global platinum demand, and they talk about structural changes when it comes to the platinum market overall?
Yeah, look, I think at first glance it's clearly a positive. I think it's always good to kind of see a company spending less, but they shouldn't just be spending less just for any reason. If it is really in the best interest of shareholders and of stakeholders, then yes, of course they should do it. And I think the level of profitability of the platinum industry in the last couple of years has forced a lot of significant change upon them, and as the world's largest producer of platinum metals, you could make the argument that it is maybe their kind of almost responsibility to get the industry into much better shape. Mm-hmm. I think it's quite a steep target, to spend 25% less. It sounds very good. But we all know that the industry normally spends a lot more in capital expenditure than what they normally say to the market. But it all sounds fairly good on paper. Unfortunately, the 2013 financial year will be heavily impacted by once-off costs or restructuring costs, I think to the tune of about 3.2 billion. Mm-hmm. But the big question mark is, can they achieve, the uplift in profitability that they are promising shareholders, to the tune of about 3.8 billion from 2015. It's quite far away, and there's lots of work to be done. But if they can do it, then it is certainly, I think a company-changing strategy.
So, of course, a key player when it comes to the global platinum industry, when it comes to the global platinum sector. So, what are your thoughts right now on getting exposure potentially to the sector from a long-term perspective? Would you buy Amplats right now, given the fact it's trading just around 490 rand, or would you buy one of the smaller players listed here in South Africa at all?
Look, I think from a peer valuation point of view, I think you could probably make the case that some of the smaller players are perhaps more undervalued. They are trading at significant discounts to so-called replacement value. You can look at Lonmin, you can look at Aquarius Platinum. Both have actually done worse than Anglo Platinum over the past year. And normally, when a company or when an industry leader sheds capacity, normally it is to the benefit of the competitors. So, and hence you almost want to rather invest in those counters that are not shedding any capacity, and that kind of gets like a bit of a free ride as a result of this industry type of restructuring. So I would probably not go for Amplats yet. I think the one issue is that they have to incur significant restructuring costs, whereas the other players don't. And in fact, some of the peers, as I have pointed out, have done significantly worse. So Lonmin does look quite interesting. Aquarius does look quite interesting, but it remains a very, very high risk sector at the moment.
Certainly the platinum price is benefiting from all of this, trading at a premium to the gold price. And just talking about platinum versus gold, I mean, in South Africa, we know that the gold sector has diminished when it comes to the importance in the overall mining sector. But looking at the November production figures, gold output down 32.2% year on year. I mean, that is an extremely scary number when you think about, as I say, how the gold sector continues to shrink here in South Africa.
Yes, definitely. A very disappointing number. I think it has to be seen in context, though, is that we did see immense industrial action during the fourth quarter of last year, and I quite doubt whether the magnitude or the extent of that will again be repeated. I think it is going to be a very difficult year for industrial action yet again. Wage negotiations will take place again mid-2013. So I don't think it's completely over, but I think we can probably look forward to slightly better, say output numbers from the gold sector going forward. I think the platinum industry is perhaps the one that worries me now. I think the labour situation will remain very tense. To let 14,000 workers go, I think is certainly easier said than done. And I would probably anticipate some type of industrial action throughout the industry, perhaps not only at Anglo Platinum. That is all relatively good news for the platinum price, however, because again, workers will be downing tools. They won't be bringing metal to the surface. So all relatively bullish for the platinum supply and demand balance in the short term.
As you said, just could be almost the start of quite a tough time when it comes to relations between Anglo-American and the government. I think Susan Chabangu, singling out Chris Griffiths today, the new CEO at Amplats, talking about the shock that she had at the decision there for the job cuts. But we've talked a lot about Amplats and the resource space today. What about AVI's trading update? HEPS expected between 6 and 9% higher. That's for the first half. Your thoughts on that in the context of the sell-off we're seeing?
Look, I think it is a very disappointing trading update. I think it has been one of those companies that have always, not I would say always, but certainly the last couple of years, they've almost only ever beaten shareholder expectations or analyst expectations when they put out trading updates. So the market was looking for a first half number, I would guess, closer to earnings being up 20%. So a 6 to 9% number is certainly a fairly significant miss in my book. So analysts will have to downgrade their earnings expectations. So I think it comes as no surprise that the share is kind of selling off. It does seem to be mainly due to the fishing business that had a very tough first half, and that's about 10% of operating profit. So that is a volatile business. It can swing around relatively quickly. So I would expect their second half of the current financial year to be slightly better. But having said that, not a great number. And the share has done fantastically well. So has the entire general retail sector. So it is not cheap, and hence you are seeing the kind of price action that you've seen today.
Yeah, just interesting the contrast between I&J, the fish side of the business, sales there down almost 4%, or revenue down 4%, and fashion brands revenue up 24% in the first half. Rhynhardt, where do you stand on the sectors right now? Any preference when it comes to that, investing in specific sectors in South Africa?
Look, we've kind of just spoken about the consumer sector, having spoken about AVI. I think if you have to extend that a little bit further into the general retail sector, very, very consensual, I think, among most South African fund managers, is that the retail sector seems relatively expensive. I think it's hard to make a very strong value case for most of the general retailers. And in fact, we've had a couple of trading updates out from AVI, from ShopRite, from Massmart, and all of them have been marginally disappointing. And they have to keep, I think, surprising on the upside if they have to maintain their current multiple rating. So that's not a sector that we tend to like. Within resources, we like gold shares, we like platinum shares. We think that they are very undervalued, and we think that the prospects for the metal price going forward remains relatively robust. We're a little bit more cautious on the iron ore miners because the iron ore price in our view is very, very high, and therefore the level of profits are quite unsustainable on a medium to longer term basis. And the financial sector does look quite interesting to us. I don't think banking shares are extremely overvalued. Sector earnings momentum remains very, very strong. So that is certainly, I think, an area of opportunity.